We are recording.
Hit it, Amy.
Hey, good morning, you guys. We're filming this a day early due to schedule conflicts. So welcome to Author Talk. You guys know me. I'm Amy. I'm here with Sandy Russell, and our guest today is Joanna Jordan. So everybody say hi.
Hi.
Hello, Joanna.
Hi, Joanna.
Hi.
Nice to meet you, Joanna.
Thank you.
So-
It's nice to meet you.
Joanne, before we get to the social media question, Joanna is on today because she won at the Houston Writers Guild Social last week. She won cover of the month.
Wow.
And she was talking about she has this new book out, et cetera, et cetera. And I was like, hey, Sandy, we ought to have Joanna on.
And here you are. Voila.
And here you are.
It's just like magic. And it's amazing, Russell, don't you think, and Amy, that we don't plan our guests out months in advance like a lot of podcasts do. So
Except for your clients is that you plan for them to come.
when I have a client that has a book launch coming up,
Right.
we do
Yeah.
plan to have them on about that time. But other than that, we're just kind of like, and we always have a great guest. And every now and then, when we don't have anybody, we're like, okay, let's just the three of us get on and talk about, and we try to.
And that was what was supposed to be this week. Is this was supposed to be the week just the three of us, but Joanna had popped up, and we wanted to take advantage of it, and as close to her book coming out as possible to help her.
Nice.
So, Sandy, you're in Carolina right now.
Yeah, see the beautiful trees in the background. I'm in.
Have you thought about going outside with the camera and letting us see it?
When it's warmer, yes, I've thought about it, but not today. It is 52 degrees.
Oh.
Now, to them, this is a nice, warm, sunny day, and everybody's outside.
But as a Houstonian,
Freezing day, so
Right.
I'm staying inside.
see, Sue would be laughing at you.
Sue probably is laughing, or will be tomorrow when we play this. So, yeah.
Or the young man that we interviewed last week that lives in Wisconsin.
Oh, yeah. He's definitely
Right.
laughing at us.
Yeah, he's laughing at you too,
Frank.
Sandy.
Hi, Frank. I know you're laughing, but it's
How do you think? How's Frank's book doing?
His
Is
book
it still scheduled to come out?
it's scheduled to come out in the middle of April.
Let's put that book up while we're talking.
Okay, so Frank is a young man, very young to have this book, and honestly, I'm in the middle of reading it right now, and it is a great book. It's the story.
He's very impressive, don't
He
you
is.
think? And this is his
Yes.
book, and it's
Omari.
about a young man.
Omari is a young man who's like the middle child, and so he gets called on to do some things that he is not comfortable doing. So
It makes
yeah.
me feel like I need to write a book because we're the same age.
Actually,
Well,
you do need to
Hey,
write.
what is stopping
You need to write a book
I
like
know.
Brian
What is
did,
going
the 52
on?
ways
I'm
to
telling you.
fix your social
You need
media.
to quit laying around and doing nothing and get out there and get something. A book written.
Get up off my couch more often.
Yeah, Amy has her own social media company, Joanna. So
Yeah.
she's very busy. She also is vice president of my company, Perceptive Public Relations, and so she really has her hands full. So don't write a book if it means you don't have time to do my stuff. Okay.
So here's a question, Amy. We always talk. I want to get to social media early. I texted you earlier this week about it because I came across this article, or not an article, but on social media talking about writing Instagram stories.
Right.
And then it just went off, and it didn't really discuss it. And I was like, what the heck is that? So
Okay.
is it writing just a bunch of little short paragraphs and sticks? Is this what we're talking about?
Well, so there's different ways of doing it. So I think the most effective way of doing Instagram stories is telling a story, because you use different images, right, that you have the quote, the text on, but by telling a story, by having different images and let your images do the talking. So that's could be what they mean by writing, or you put, your text on there with a good background image. But it's just multiple images, or you can go like Facebook Live, but it's Instagram Live. Just kind of like the same thing, but the best ones that I've seen are the ones where the pictures kind of tell the story with not a whole lot of words, and it's like 15 different slides, but it gives like an amazing story, and it makes you really want to buy their product or their book or whatever, because it's just so, I guess, enticing.
That exact description did not occur to me, and that's exactly the exact correct description. Thank you so much.
Oh,
I missed it then.
I'm glad that I nailed it on the head for you.
You nailed
I'm
it.
so glad.
So Amy, so specifically, I'm on my
Okay.
phone, and Instagram is, so we have to explain, let's explain that. We can't be on Instagram on here because we're on our laptops or iPads.
Oh,
We
but
have
you
to
can
be on
look
a
at
phone.
you can look at your images, right? But it's a phone-based app, so you can look at images on the computer, but you can't update on the computer. You can't do your stories, anything like that. So that's where it's user-friendly only on your phone. So to create a story, you usually have to have your images on there, and there's different ones that you can use to create your stories and stuff like that that will sync for Instagram stories or Instagram images. So there's different ones that you can use.
Okay.
You have to create it all on your phone.
I'm going to try that this week. I'm going to try to do an Instagram story using photographs.
Where
and
would I go?
minimize,
Where would I
minimize
go
the
to do
work.
a story? Because
So,
it says stories right here. Okay, Amy,
There's not a button called stories, Amy.
but there's a word called stories right there.
Right,
So,
that's what your story
Russell, there's
that's what your story.
Joanna, see, I told you, you're going to have to get in this because we get at it.
okay, Amy, can you plan on talking about this a little bit on our course next Monday? Because tomorrow night, Amy is teaching a course on social media, teaching a class on social media as part of our overall course called How to Create.
Actually, Sandy, that's tonight, isn't it? Because this is aired on Monday.
This is airing on Monday. That is
See,
tonight.
this is Amy. This is why we never keep secrets when we record
I
and
know,
go
this is
live.
why we always
Because she
tell people
cannot
that we
get that.
recorded. This is fine.
Okay, do you want me to tell about your episode?
No. Cut that. Go back to your point.
So if you're wanting to make a story, like for me, you're going to click this right here, and then it'll break down images. You can do boomerang, which is like replaying several times. You can do it backwards. Kind of
Okay, so Russell, your assignment for tonight's class is to practice this, so you can show us the one you create. How's that?
Oh, but Russell, you've gotten better. You use hashtags more now. That makes me so happy.
Well, you teach that, and I know you're right, even though I don't really
Like
see
doing it.
it.
Yeah.
But I know you're right. Let's get to Joanna. Joanna, who are you?
Who am I?
Yeah, tell us
Who
who
is
you are.
Joanna Jordan? That's the
Oh
secret.
my. Well, I am a newly published self-published author on Amazon. I also am a mom, and I'm a school teacher here in the Houston area.
Nice.
And there's Joanna the night at the social at the Houston Writers Guild, where her book, she's holding it, won the cover of the month.
Wow.
So,
And we'll be
how long did it take you to write this book? And tell us, include your son in the story. I think that's really interesting. You've told us about you and your son's kind of your project.
Yes, this is a project with my third son, who is 17. He's getting ready to graduate from high school this year. He's my boss. He gets me up and makes me do everything. I've been working, I had started working on the third book for Flowers in Winter back in 2012. And when I got it done, I realized that I needed to tell the earlier part of the story. So I kind of started over, and that became Flowers in Winter. And here we are in 2018. We published at the end of January. And we had done a photo shoot some years ago. That's actually my son on the cover with one of my previous students. And we had gone to the Houston Botanical Gardens and done this huge photo shoot with some of the major themes that are in the book. And so he's my technologically savvy child, and he's had all these photographs. And when it got down to picking how we were going to do the cover, we really started arguing. Like, we had multiple different possible covers. And finally he said, Mom, you have a great group to survey. Go survey your students. So I surveyed my students, and I thought surely they would side with me, but they all, I mean, it was like 80% of them wanted the cover that Riley chose. And that's the cover that's on Flowers in Winter. So between Riley and my students, they're the ones who kind of chose it. But I think it's the right target audience for this first book anyway. So
what is your target audience?
Well, we're looking at young adult moving into adult fiction with this. So the main character in this first novel, her name's Sarah, and she's 12 and 13 in this book, but we're dealing with some serious adult themes. Her mother commits suicide. She and her older siblings find the mother, and so Sarah's really launched into the adult world as a 12-year-old. And so we definitely, like, I wouldn't recommend someone under the age of 16 reading this, just because it is a little gruesome during the suicide portions, and there's major adult themes moving through this kind of coming of age section of the story. But book 2, Sarah will be pre-college years, and book 3, she's well into college. So we're looking at a young adult audience to, early 20s. That's kind of where we're at. But everyone that's read it, older, my age, love it too. So we're not.
Cover definitely speaks to that market area, because that's a beautiful cover. I really like it.
So Joanna, you mentioned that you had a book signing. You told us earlier you had a book signing. So tell us about that. Is that how you launched the book?
Well, so originally we launched it on January 27th, and we did a lot of digital social media type launching. We had pre-orders opened for e-copies on Amazon, so we saw those start to roll in even before the physical copies launched. And then we gave it about 2 weeks to kind of work our social media angle. And then I have some friends who actually own a pizzeria here near Summerwood in Humble, Texas, and I was there. Actually, a friend of mine has a band, and I was there, and they had their band playing for Valentine's Day, and I said, you know what, this is where we should do our first book signing. And so I arranged it. We did it the very next week. We got the party room, and we put rose petals down the middle of the table, and we set up the little author table. It was pretty awesome, and we filled every chair. We had to bring in some extra tables, and we had dinner together, and I did a reading, and it was pretty neat to see everyone opened up their copy of the book and they followed along. It wasn't like bookstore signings that I'd been to previously. It was much more casual and intimate, and I really liked that. I liked getting to speak with people who came to have dinner and talk books. That was kind of fun. So it was a new approach.
That is great. That is awesome. Now, you said you're a high school teacher, right?
Yes, ma'am.
And what subject do you teach?
I teach AP, or Advanced Placement U.S. History, and on-level U.S. History.
Okay.
So is that something you plan to do to have any book events at the schools, at the high schools? Or can you do that?
So there's the possibility. Our high school was impacted largely by the hurricane. We were relocated for the first semester. And I can't speak a whole lot because I don't want to represent the district on that today. But I have done some student giveaways. I actually just did one over social media this weekend, and my students are very much engaged in this process. I think it's been neat to talk to them about dream building and goals, and just, you go for it whether you feel qualified or not. And I've given a couple free copies to the library at our school, and we're talking about the possibility of maybe doing something later in the year, but our schedule is kind of complex, trying to catch up from the hurricane, and right now we're focused on academics and getting the job done for the students right now more than leisure. Maybe this will come along in May after we're done with state testing.
Joanna, a couple of things. Is your book available on Amazon? And I think it's not under Joanna, is it?
No, it's under J.M. Jordan. So I use my first 2 initials for it instead of going by Joanna Jordan. So you can find it under J.M. Jordan. And I have a website, which is jmjordan.net. and you can find us there too. So.
How's your reviews going? How many reviews do you have?
Last time I checked, we've got 5. Well, actually there's 6, but Amazon's showing 5. And we're
That's always very aggravating, trust me.
So they've been 4.8 and 5-star reviews so far. I know eventually we'll get some that, aren't quite so high, but I'm just happy.
Don't read those. Trust me. Don't even read them.
All right. Good advice.
Sandy, were you able to pull up her page on Amazon?
I am on her author page on Amazon, which talks about her book. It talks about her bio, gives her bio on there. And as I was reading this to prepare for this interview with her, I saw where she graduated with a Bachelor of Science in History from Methodist University in Fayetteville, North Carolina, which I'm in Sanford, North Carolina right now, which is about 45 minutes away from there, I believe. So how did that happen? I loved what you said about being a gypsy, having a gypsy soul. I think I can definitely relate to that, but my husband doesn't like to move, period. So my gypsy blood is churning these days.
And that's why I always say, poor David.
Yeah.
That's Sandy's husband.
Right this minute, I would love to move to North Carolina because you can see how beautiful it is.
Well, look how beautiful it is out there.
I know. So Joanna, you, so that's not far from here where you went to school.
Right. So I'm a second generation monarch. My mom attended Methodist University, and she was actually she wasn't in the first graduating class, but I think she was in that first 4 years, like right after Methodist opened. I had never really considered going there. I joined the military before I went to college, so I was actually stationed at Fort Bragg.
Did they pay for your college?
They paid for some of it, yes. And I had the JI Bill to help.
Good.
So that helped. And so when I got out of the Army there at Fort Bragg, I owned a house and I stayed there and I went to college. And that's just kind of how that ended up happening. Actually, my youngest 2 children live right around the corner from where Sandy's at. They live with their dad. So
cool.
They're like
cool.
probably a neighborhood away from where you're at right
Yes,
now.
because I'm right outside of Sanford in this community called Carolina Trace. And it's beautiful, beautiful.
So that's so weird. How can it be that we're all in Houston, we're doing this podcast in Houston, you happen to be in Carolina and you're 10 minutes from where all our kids are. That's crazy.
No, that is crazy. That's
what
crazy.
we think.
Yeah,
I hate that stuff.
Well, that's
so, Sandy, I have a question for you from what Joanna said.
okay.
If Joanna were to come to you and say, okay, what do I do next? What do you think she ought to do next? Because this is right down your line.
It is.
And actually, you and Amy, I asked both of you, Amy, what do you think she should do too?
And Amy, be ready because I want you to talk to her about the social media. That's a great question.
Okay.
For me, the big thing, Joanna, is keep up the pace, keep going. So many people have a tendency to really do a lot of marketing around the launch, and then they think that's going to continue. And for all authors, there is this friends and family aspect that when you first get especially your first book, everybody every person that knows any of your kids or you or anything wants a copy of that book. And that is wonderful. And that is a great start. Now use that to leverage. Yeah. I would suggest that you start a list, and a list of people with email addresses.
This is her new thing, Joanna. She wants to list.
It is
She's
not
gone list crazy.
So it's not a new thing. Russell is listening for the first time. because Russell does not have a list, even though we created this thing for him with a place to capture his email addresses.
Well, we captured like 50,000 email addresses. They're just 90% of them were bad.
And we didn't know which one of those were the 90% or the 10%.
Right.
So
Okay.
It turned out to be an overwhelm. This was people that had logged on to his podcast or listened to his podcast. So there are ways to do that as well, which we're going to be working with Russell to do a better job next time. So.
On the next book.
On the next book, which will be ready when? Soon.
I told you, don't ask me.
Okay. We won't ask him, but we have plans. We're planning it. So yes, Joanna, the one thing that one of the most important things is for you to build this list of fans, for you to build your platform. And if you have a way of communicating with them, that means you can let them know when you're going to be in a certain city doing an event. If you're going to be back for anything going on at Methodist in Fayetteville, then you could announce that to the people on your list, and anybody in this area could automatically know you're here and go see you. So building a list, considering that this is a business and this is a new revenue stream for the Joanna. What is your last name again, Joanna? I'm sorry.
Jordan.
I knew
it's a J.M. Jordan.
Okay, so I thought this is what I thought of when I heard her names. We had a class, and one of our classes in our new series we taught last week was how to be on the New York Times bestseller list, and we went down the list of people who are on there and one of the things that tips from one of the authors was have a memorable name. Well, don't you think Joanna meets that completely? I mean, Joanna Jordan. Oh my gosh, I can hear that on Good Morning America. This is Joanna Jordan.
That would be sweet.
Wouldn't it be? Oh my gosh. So we want to create that. Anyway, just continuing the marketing, continuing to grow, learning more and more, because the world of self-publishing changes on a minute-to-minute basis. So what is the new algorithm that Amazon has to be a bestseller there? And what are the new requirements to be on any of the bestseller lists? Just stay involved in that, and you will definitely, the more you stay involved, the more you learn, the more you'll be able to implement that in your writing career, especially as you have other books that are coming down the pike. So just hang in there. The secret to being a successful author is perseverance. So,
well, we argued about that last week. I said you had to write a good book, and Amy said you had to market it, right?
No, I said it was both, but it's marketing.
And Sue agreed with me.
It's mostly marketing, because there's books out there that are not the greatest written books, and
Boy, that's true. I read one last week.
You proved that.
What do you mean I proved that? What do you mean by that?
Well, you said it. When you first read it, you're like, this book is crap. And I'm like, okay, it is a #1 bestseller and a lot of other things, and we won't say anything else because we don't want to give away who that author is. However, it was obviously marketed very well. So.
Obviously. Amy, what would you suggest she do now on social media?
She needs to just stay consistent and make people know that she does have a book out, and use hashtags, but you are an author. You are on Amazon and the title of your book. But you don't want to shove your book down people's throats. So you don't want that to be the only thing that you're posting.
Your 80-20 rule, right, Amy?
Right. So 80% needs to be someone, you're sharing someone else's content, or you have a blog that you put up or whatever. 20% needs to be about your book and selling your book, because people don't like you shoving your book down people's throat. So they want to know you as a person and things like that, and build an emotional connection with you, and that's going to draw them to sell your book. So the biggest thing that you can do is be consistent and be raw with people. Like, don't let them in like your super personal space, but let them in like your outer circle, so they feel like they know you. That's important, especially with the changes and stuff with Facebook. That's important. And doing videos about your book is going to be important.
What social media platforms do you use, Joanna? Because you said you did social media there for a few weeks.
Yes, so we have a Facebook page, or I have a Facebook page under J.M. Jordan. We have Twitter set up. We have and we have Instagram set up. And I'm not bringing my personal Snapchat into it. That's for me and the kids, and we play with that. But as far as Instagram goes, and Twitter and the Facebook page, it's all dedicated to the writing. On Twitter, you'll see a little bit more of my interaction with my high school and my students. That's kind of there. It's dual. It was just easier to do one than to have two. But everything kind of does revolve around the writing, because this is clearly a part of my life. And so what we're trying to do, something we did once we launched, is we're trying to do, or I'm trying to do, at least one Facebook Live video a month. And we talked some about some of the themes. Like, it was very important for me. We're dealing with major grief, and we're dealing with suicide in this first book. And those can create triggers in people, because I don't know what a reader's background is going to be. So some of the first videos we put up, we talked about grief, and we talked about suicide, and we gave the hotlines that are available in the United States and Canada. We have that information available on our February newsletter on the website. And so that was super important to us, and when I say us, when I'm talking plural, I'm doing this with my kids. You know, this is a family legacy thing, and that's what I'm referencing.
Or you use kids for two things. Sometimes you're talking about kids, it's your kids at school, and sometimes it's your number 3 son.
I know. They're all part of it, I feel like. It's in one way or another. Sorry.
That's pretty good. I like it.
So my babies, they're my fuel. So
Good.
So that's where we're at social media wise. We're pretty excited. We have a pretty decent following on Facebook. We're over 1,000 people. I mean, that's not decent in the terms of thousands and thousands, but it's a place to start. We feel like we've got a cornerstone down, and so we're just going to keep building on that. And I did hear your advice, the 80-20 rule, on one of your previous podcasts, and I was talking to Riley about that this week. I said, it's going to be very important that we find other things besides just flowers in winter, just
right, because otherwise it's just boring.
Right, it's redundant. So
you can talk about your teaching experience some, because that's kind of interesting, I think.
Yeah.
Well, another thing, you have one ready-made topic to talk about all the time, and that's suicide.
Yeah.
So you don't want to spend a lot of time on that, but
I know it'd be too depressing.
No, but you don't want to talk about the depressing part of it. You want to talk about the support that's available, and that, like you were talking about earlier, and the stories around it. But I mean, you could do a whole article on how many teenage suicides there are in this country each year, and it really is astounding. So some of the stuff, the recovery about that would be a topic, and then just the teenagers in general, and teenage growing up, and the problems that they encounter, the challenges, and how to overcome some of those. Those are all new. So you have some great topics, and I noticed on your website that you do not have a blog.
No, I don't.
So that would be my very first suggestion for you, is to start that blog, and then you can post a blog on your social media as well. But your blog could be longer, and you could just put little snippets on your social media, especially Twitter. So,
well, I think those topics are great. The suicide awareness and stuff like that. But with your book being so heavy about those topics and stuff, and it sounds like it's like a heavy book. Like emotionally and stuff. And I think for your page, you want to bring that up every now and then, but you want to kind of keep it lighthearted, just because your book is so heavy. You don't want your page to be depressing. Right. You know what I'm saying? Like, you don't want it to go somewhere where it's like, oh, okay, she's posting about suicide awareness, which is great. And you can do that every now and then, but you want it to be kind of light and airy, just because your book is so heavy.
And an example of that's very true, Avi. Thank you. Because an example of that is a series of books that have been very popular for years, and it's called Flowers in the Attic. Are you familiar with those?
Yes, V.C. Andrews, very, very huge when I was in high school.
Yes, and I read a bunch of them, but I quit reading them because they were so depressing after a while. I'm like, oh my God.
I wonder why. Apparently that's why I never even heard of them.
I haven't either.
Did you read when you were in high school?
No.
Who are you asking?
The person who said they didn't read the books. So
my teachers didn't think I read.
But actually Russell reads heavy duty stuff now.
Yeah. I read books like The Life and Times of Huey P. Long.
Yeah, see,
That
that's
really wasn't assigned writing. I'm
No,
reading in
I don't
high
know.
school.
I don't know that part.
So sorry.
but some of the other books. So when I interviewed Russell when his book first came out, and he was telling me some of the authors that he read, honestly, a lot of people have probably never heard of the author, much less.
Joanna, that's because I'm a Proust reader. I read Proust and Russian writers because I love them. French and Russian writers is what I love.
Well, to each their own.
No, it's an absolute better. It's an absolute thing. It's not an opinion.
And it's okay, Russell. It's okay.
He does really like it. And when we went to the Writers Guild Christmas gala, my husband likes to read heavy duty writings as well. And so the two of them were in a discussion, which was very interesting, and they did not agree. I forgot what the whole thing was, but
I know I much prefer if someone has read Proust that they don't agree with me about it.
yeah. So it makes for a great conversation. Otherwise, all you can say is, well, that was a great book, and then the conversation's ended. So, but yeah,
Right.
That's great. So Joanna, anything else? Like, how did you start writing with your kids?
How did I start writing? Well, so one of the things I share on my biography on my website is that I actually had some learning disabilities when I was younger, much younger. And one of the things my parents made me do every night was read, and I had to write in journals. And it was a chore in the beginning, but then I started getting where it felt natural to do it every day. And I journaled. I've journaled since I was in the second grade, and I still journal. It's taking on different approaches. It was like I was telling my story to someone else for a lot of years, and now it kind of looks a little different format wise, and part of that has to do with time, I suppose. But then I just got to where I thought maybe I'll give it a go. I always had received favorable comments about my writing in high school and college, and I was looking for something that was my own. I've raised 4 kids, and you get sucked into the vortex of raising children, and I needed something that was just me. And I felt like I had these stories in me, and so I just started. I just throw my hat in the ring, and a lot of times I don't feel like I know what I'm doing, but we're going to do it anyways. We're just going to adapt and overcome. And I was really hung up on whether to go for traditional publishing or self-publishing. And my final decision with that was just, I could spend 15 years waiting to see this in print, and it might not even happen at that point. And self-publishing looks like, with all these advances in technology, self-publishing seemed like the no-brainer. Let's do it. Let's learn from it. Let's make it as professional and good as we can, and then we'll grow from there and do it better the second, third, fourth, fifth time. So that's kind of where we're at. It's been a huge plunge, but I totally have loved every minute of it. So.
And I can't wait to get a copy of it and read it. That sounds like a great book.
Thank you.
So, Joanna, thank you so much for joining us today. This has been very enlightening, and congratulations on being the book cover of the month. And I'm sure they told you, I wasn't able to be there and meet you in person. I'm so sorry. Each monthly winner will be put in a group, and from there we'll choose the 2018 book cover of the year. So, and there will only be 12 because there's only 12 months. So it won't be like hundreds and hundreds and hundreds.
I don't know if there'll even be 12, Sandy, because there'll be some months they won't even have the socials.
Well, as true, we didn't start till February, so that means 11 to start with. So, yeah. So you got a good chance of being the book cover of the year.
That's right.
And for that, and for the award, and for winning this award, I do recommend, I have to say this, I'm a publicist at heart. So I do recommend you doing a press release or some kind of announcement about that and sending it out to the media.
Right. I will send it to you. I'll send you a copy of the picture I just sent you as soon as this is over, so you can do exactly what Sandy said.
Okay, press release.
So lots of good stuff. And you can also send it to like Methodist University. Their alumni newsletter would be a great place to put the press release, and anything that goes on around Houston for I'm guessing that you're in the Humboldt School District, since that's where you mentioned you lived, or
I'm close by. I'm actually in Sheldon ISD.
okay, so good. So, look at all the different ISDs, and if there's any, I don't know what publications are available, but I'm sure you can figure that out. So, and then if you can get over into HISD, and I'm in Scyther district, so some of the bigger districts, Katy, Fort Bend, all those, there's quite a few districts that you could get the word out about you and your book, and then open the door for some possible signings as well. So, Russell, anything else from you?